on to Ville. We okay, admittedly, I'll say it. Admittedly, I was going for Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40. Admittedly.
There it is.
Okay.
We got it out of the way. We got it out of the way.
I said it because if I didn't say it, people were going to be like, people listen to this show every day. We're going to be like, hey, now he's in there. All right, now you got to say something. But in the building with us today, we have the WWE champion, Cody Rhodes.
Thank you for having me. I feel. Why were you going for him? So at WrestleMania 39,
yes,
I feel like it makes a little more sense. Yeah. WrestleMania 40, though, let me ask you, what's because this is actually, I'm curious about.
We need to have this. I need this.
So a lot of people ask me, they're like, "Oh, the story's finished. What's the next story?" Whatever. And to me, I'm thinking, what was Roman gonna do if he had continued on? Like in your, pie in the sky hypothetical, what would Roman have done?
Well, here's my thing. I think Roman, once The Rock came back, I would have kind of continued that on. I liked where some guys could be coming in, some other guys maybe joining the bloodline. We'll see what happens over the next little bit, you know. I think there was a lot was still on the table there that they could have done.
Probably still on the table, maybe? Mm-hmm.
It could be.
But you wanted the title to be connected.
Yeah. See,
how do you feel about Rock's belt that he gave himself?
I like it.
It's a very nice looking title.
It is very cool looking. It is
very nice,
very aesthetically pleasing.
And that's a that goes a very long way with wrestlers in general. Oh, that's a really good looking belt. I think there was a title in New Japan that I solely wanted because it was a good looking belt.
Yeah.
And then by the time I got it, the dude who I beat for it had beat that belt half to death. And I remember being like,
it's a little rough. Yeah. Well, I will say, growing up, I was a Ric Flair fan when everybody was rooting for Ricky Steamboat. I was a Triple H guy when everybody was rooting for The Rock. Yeah. And but I will say this, man, just what you've done in wrestling, and I think being a catalyst of other places, and everything that you've done has really revolutionized where wrestling is today. And the one thing The Rock did say, and when he come back, was wrestling does feel cool again
because of him. Right, because Rock.
Well, now listen. I think he played a little role in it. Okay, I did like him being back, but I will say this, man. As lifelong wrestling fans, it is nice. It felt like you went through a lull there, and this is where we'll kind of get into it. It felt like we went through a lull there, where guys like us who grew up wrestling fans, been fans since we were kids. Right. It was like,
multiple eras.
I'm a wrestling fan. It's like, oh God, you like that stuff. Now that's not the reaction anymore. The crowd tonight, we've watched SmackDown and Raws come through here, and there's been over the last 10 years, sometimes you're like, God, I hope it's a good showing, I hope it's a good showing for the city. That's not in question anymore. Yeah. It's going to be a great showing. Just how proud are you of just everything that's went on over the last 5-7 years of just what's went on and kind of brought us to where we are today?
Well, I think all the gambles you take, all the risk you take, all the choices that you're gonna make, you want them to lead somewhere special and unique. But I could have never guessed some of the butterfly effect certain things would have in terms of the wrestling economy itself. Wrestlers being paid on the level that they probably should have been paid earlier in their career. That being something I'm particularly proud that we were able to help kind of bring that to bring that out forward. Another piece of it is with everything that's happening with TKO and UFC and WWE and that merger, to be the champion of the company, to have the title that's really the North Star for WWE throughout all this is, I'm hoping when I go back and look at this, the thing I'm most proud of in my career. I know all the steps that it took to get there. I know all the gambles and the risk, but I would like this story and this run to be incredibly special because, like you said, you've been fans through multiple eras. So some fans are fans of certain eras more than others. And a big thing that we just saw it with the little kiddos outside, but this is probably the thing that you guys see and understand is that you'll see tonight. There's a whole new generation of kids who are jumping into pro wrestling and sports entertainment.
Absolutely.
And I remember this was a conversation, one of the very few conversations I had with Mr. Heyman, but he was telling me, saying they don't know who your dad was. And he was saying, I don't mean that in a negative.
Sure.
He said they don't know him. They know you. And they might know him as your dad. And it was really wild to think that's the case. Like this belt, for example, the literal belt.
Yeah.
So many of us like the Winged Eagle and the different big gold and the Undisputed. There's been so many like title iterations. I guarantee you 5 and 10 years from now, when those kids out there have a podcast or a show or doing something, they're talking wrestling, this would be their title. Right. This is the one that it's just a unique time to be age-wise to be watching and being part of it, because you can have your foot in both in terms of what's happening and what the future of wrestling is going to look like, but also like, oh, I remember then too as well.
Well, a little side note too. Just speaking of WrestleMania 40, my 5-year-old now, my 5-year-old who's into it. My 5-year-old doesn't disagree with me, Cody. You know, he thinks I'm the man. You know, like I'm dad. You know what I'm saying? Like my 15-year-old is growing into it a little bit, but my 5-year-old thinks I'm the man. Yes. The one time he disagreed with me, he said, "Who are we rooting for?" I said, "Oh, Roman." You know, he said, "We're rooting for Roman." You know, he was like, "No, we're rooting for Cody." Good on him. So to your point of a new generation,
100%.
What about Louisville in particular? Because you do have some ties here.
Triple Crown OVW champion. Yeah.
I won the OVW heavyweight title at Derby Park Expo 5.
Nice Expo 5. Let's go.
So I won it there, right across from a strip club called the Greenlight Lounge, which it had a sign on the outside saying "Talent Wanted" and "Talent" was misspelled. And it's also right by like Churchill Downs, where you're like right
down the road.
Beautiful thing. And then of course I remember winning it at the Derby Park show, and then I would lose it before I ever came to OVW TV. But that was really a fun few days to be OVW champion. I tell people it's the closest I got to a college experience. Was a Louisville experience. 4400 Shepherdsville Road, that parking lot, driving the ring truck. Because the secret was, if you drove the ring truck, you didn't have to set up the ring.
Nice.
So it's like, hey, I got it here, guys.
Pro tip,
get to work.
Okay.
But that just Al Snow, Danny Davis, all the fans. I see fans. You see fans everywhere, and they might say like, "Hey, you remember me? I was at this show." And for me, it's pretty much always like, "Yeah, sure." You know,
of course.
You know, like, but there are a lot of fans in Louisville that you meet like, "Hey, you remember?" And I really do. I remember that from the parking lot brawl with Jacob Duncan, where Timmy Baltimore's mic wasn't even plugged into a camera and he was holding it up. And I do actually remember them. Yeah. I think that's special because it feels a little like a homecoming.
I'll say this: if you went to an OVW show today, there are people. Some of those same people are still there.
Yes.
It's wild, man.
There was a lady, and I don't know if she's with us anymore or not, but there was a lady named Donna who used to go to every OVW show, and I would hear guys complain about her in the locker room because they'd be like, "There's Donna, you know, she's seen Batista, she's seen Randy Orton, she's seen John Cena, she doesn't care about us." Like she'd be like going and like, well, isn't that like the goal? Like she's the most into it, jaded, kind of perhaps seen it all. That's the goal, to see if you can get her on your side, you know. Really great crowd. Is Wick's Pizza still a thing?
Oh, absolutely. What, they got about 7 locations.
Yeah, they opened a new one downtown by the Splice.
The Wick's Pizza parties area, which was just 2 recliners, and you'd get a free pizza. And I remember Danny Davis was very specific. It's just 1 pizza. I always thought that was the coolest thing for just a little, you know, the Davis Arena and the, you know, OVW. I always loved that. Gosh, so many little great touches here that were brought by OVW.
It's a really exciting time to be a wrestling fan. And I think part of that is spurred by there's other options, but not only that, the fact that they're willing to work with each other. We just saw, we had her come in studio, Jordan Grace, the TNA champion, now is the NXT champion.
She's special, isn't she?
She's fantastic. She was incredible. You could tell.
Yet. She's not yet.
But right. You're right. But she's wrestling. She's wrestling. She's wrestling in NXT. You're right. Yeah. I'm getting ahead of myself. I got my money on her. But no, it's just you wrestled everywhere.
Yep.
Like I almost wanted to say literally, because it seems like you've wrestled literally everywhere. Guys like you, guys like AJ, who I know you're not exactly fond of at the moment. But
Well, I took the bait.
yeah, we all did.
I took the bait. I'm supposed to be the hardcore, smartest.
Oh, man, the sport
the
code.
Batman of pro wrestling in terms of knowing every exit and knowing my way out. I fell right for, the powder blue sport code.
The
Fell
sport
into
coach
it.
should have
Yeah.
gave it away.
Never
man.
trust the man retiring in the sport.
I got Henried, man. I got Henried.
You got Henried. But you guys have that experience. And now that the world of professional wrestling seems to be working almost together or a little bit more cooperative, how grateful are you for that experience wrestling elsewhere? And also, you have this experience that you could pass along to the younger generation of guys of multiple styles. Just how grateful were you for that time?
Well, I want to I'm incredibly grateful to it. But the thing that I get the most from the time I was away, the tour around the world, whether it was Independence or Ring of Honor or New Japan or anywhere I went, was I could tell myself, hey, have an open mind. I had to really experience what an open mind is like in pro wrestling and sports entertainment before it officially was like, okay, no, we're in a new era. The game, like literally any sport that you see today, basketball is nothing like it was in the 1970s. Sports entertainment, pro wrestling is nothing like it was. You can take things, fundamentals are still there. What's old is new for sure, but the business is evolving. It's moving forward. Some of the old rules, see you bye. One of the reasons I like Nick Khan and Triple H is they are big on, that's an old rule. It doesn't have to be a rule. Right? And that, keeping an open mind, that was the thing I'm most grateful that I learned from that experience. That it was a needed experience. I would not have found myself without stepping outside of my comfort zone. But I wanted to shout out Jordan Grace because I don't know Jordan Grace super well. Every now and then she lifts weights at the Nightmare Factory, so I see her in there. But I do know Jordan is somebody who loves the industry and who is learned as she went through trial and error, taught by a lot of failures, same as I was, and now she's emerging as part of this bit of a crossover you're seeing, which is unheard of. I mean, Shawn Michaels just, if Hunter and Nick Khan are breaking a few of the rules, Shawn Michaels is breaking all the rules.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's cool because we need to do that to find out where we're at. So I'm very proud of her. I remember years ago I told her, I said, I think the only thing that makes me mad is your social media. And then I look at my own social media. The guinea pig generations for socials. I've been terrible. I've been good. I've been everything. I've tried to learn what it is. But very proud of her for making her way in this world.
Absolutely. Jeremy Wyman, Ringside Podcast here. Steve, thanks for letting me hop on here with y'all this morning.
For sure.
Today we're going to turn the ESPN to Epic.
Okay.
That's what Cody Rhodes is.
Thank
It's
you.
Epic.
Thank you. You should have started.
Yeah.
Right?
You don't let me talk.
So many 40.
We just want to give you crap, man. We always do. So let's go through a quick timeline.
Yeah.
You left in an epic way.
Yeah.
You went on to travel. Well, first off, I have to pat myself on the back because in 2016, thank you, sir.
How about that?
All right. That's going to be on eBay in a few minutes. His backpack.
How about that, man?
On our year-end review, my co-host Daniel Spencer asked me to give a bold prediction. And I simply said, he's going to take over the world. He's going to change the business is what I said, not take over the world. Made you sound like an evil mastermind for some reason.
Sure, that's okay.
He'll change the business. And he said, well, why do you say that? I said, well, he's already been going from Ring of Honor to Impact to New Japan, doing everything in between. Just an Epic, just announced a 10,000-seat independent event.
Yeah.
Epic leaves that, goes and builds a place for other people to go to feed their families. Helps do that. Epic leaves there in an epic way. Shows up at WrestleMania in one of the best ways anybody can. The surprise opponent row. Epic. A few months later, you're in the ring half purple at Hell in the Cell. You even get injured epically.
You almost won me over there. All right. You almost won me. That was
wild.
Yeah, well done. Yeah.
You even get injured epically. And then you started, me and Steve are really old school wrestling fans. We love the long story builds. I mean, when I was growing up, there's only maybe like 4 pay-per-views a year, so you had the longer builds. You went on to tell one of the greatest 2-year storylines in history. So with all that, you won the championship, a couple Royal Rumbles, no big deal. So to get to the point, a long road, no pun intended, to get to the point. How proud are you of yourself that you were able to just push all the chips in on yourself and just blow it up wherever you go in a positive way? You just killed it everywhere you went. And then the second part of that question, to the naysayers, did that kind of feel good to kind of shove that in their face and be like, I'm Cody Rhodes? Like,
I think when it comes to the naysayers and the critics, when you finally get to the spot that you've been telling them you're worthy of, when you finally get to the spot that you've been working for and striving for, when that moment happens, that validation happens, you get less of a high off of saying I told you so than you might think you would. You almost look at them and feel grateful for them. I am very grateful for a lot of people say haters, people say critics, and then you'll hear people on social like, oh, that guy just lives in his mom's basement. And what I want to say is like, no, he doesn't. It's probably a real man who might work at the bank next door. He's an actual fan and he's venting his criticisms, his frustrations, whatever. Don't dismiss them. So when it comes to critics and when it comes to the naysayers, I almost feel a connection to them. I can say though, winning at WrestleMania 40, I told Brandy that my wife, I told her if I won, I would probably feel full. I kept using the term full. She told me that I was full of it, and she said it will only get worse, and you'll only want more, and you'll be more addicted than ever. And she wasn't lying. I mean, instantly, I was in the back of my bus holding this, and there was a bunch of people celebrating on the front of my bus, and I was just thinking like, whew, what are we doing tomorrow? What do we got for Raw that can be as entertaining as a build to WrestleMania was, which we had a very tumultuous, wild, I can't wait for more people to know about that story, build to WrestleMania. But long answer, I apologize. But the short answer to your question is, if you get a few beers in me, I start to be real proud. I start to be real proud. Other than that, I never talk about it and I never mention it. But every now and then, I start to pat myself on the back.
It's funny. That's how I tell my wife. I know when she's had one too many, she's like, "Man, I'm a good nurse practitioner."
The confidence comes out. The confidence.
Quick one. You got one last quick one.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted. This is kind of piggybacking off of something I heard on Busted Open. Bully asked you, and just piggybacking off that as well. How do you keep that momentum going? It certainly seems like there's momentum, but this was an all-time generational story that reached a climax at WrestleMania 40. And I mean, do you need a new arch rival? Is it AJ, or is it the lingering fact that The Rock is probably going to be back at some point, or just how do you maintain the momentum and stay hungry?
I think from the outside looking in, a lot of people might just say it's about that opponent.
Oops, sorry.
You would think he produces. This is our producer, by the way.
Yeah.
So that's how bad this is. Yeah.
No, there we go. All right, it's off.
You're good.
It's off. There we go. We're
Was
good.
it a phone call?
No, it was an alarm to make sure that
phone call.
that was my oh crap. Make sure.
Is that your dog, by the way?
That is. Yeah, I was
like my dog.
I was gonna say it kind of looks like Pharaoh's.
Yeah.
How do you get the hair to stay off,
buddy?
Dude, right? It's an ongoing war.
My wife, I was like, I'd love to get another husky. No way, never happen ever again. What was it? About the story.
And staying hungry and everything.
For me, it's just naturally the type of person I am that I want to keep going, and I want to. My agent refers to it as the next big step. So I'm always thinking of that. It was very important to me that, and I had a match that was different from a Roman Reigns match. To have that biggest arena gate in company history after WrestleMania was a good indication that we're on the right road. But I think these periods, like these months, as they build between the Big Four and between WrestleMania, this is where I'll be the most challenged.
Right.
Because you hear it all the time, the chase. It's about the chase. And I had this 2-year chase, and now you have the thing in your hands. I'd like to make the match quality just blow by in terms of exceed any standard that was set, so that there's an element of match quality to this championship. And it's the North Star for WWE. The WWE Championship is. One thing Hunter told me is everyone will want to wrestle you now.
Right.
Everyone will want to wrestle you. You have to be prepared for who you really want to wrestle and what are the biggest matches, and I'll help guide you in that process. But that's been new for me in terms of everybody has a layer of envy towards it, a layer of jealousy towards it, same as I had.
Right.
And they want it.
WWE SmackDown tonight at the KFC Yum Center. You can still get tickets on Ticketmaster.
As low as $24.
How about that? Yeah, so go snatch them up right now.
That's an honest price, because you hear people like, they're $20, $24.
know that's real.
Yeah.
That's a real one.
Listen, so Cody Rhodes, thank you so much for joining us.
Cody.
Most
awesome.
importantly, fellow Disney adult. I didn't even want to get into that conversation.
Now because you're Disney dad now, right? Like,
oh, well, so me and the wife still go a couple times a year just by ourselves too. So, okay, listen.
I just was we were just talking about this. I was trying to go to Orlando this weekend for a mental break.
Yeah.
But I didn't I didn't explain that to my wife clearly enough. I used it as like, you and Libby can go to the parks or something, and I could tell she was like, I think we'll stay home, just have a chill weekend at home. And I should have said, like, I need it more than you think.
Cody Rhodes, thank you so much. It's been an honor. Thank you for sitting down, speaking with us, man. Look forward to seeing you tonight and everything else that is to come. It's the Midday Show, 93.9 The Ville.